Hi there guys, thanks for clicking on the video. Today I thought I'd answer quite a commonly asked question, which is how's the examiner going to mark me on my driving test, / what's the driving fault, / how can I fail my driving test? All quite similar questions with the same sort of answer. Now the tricky thing is, it's not black and white. There's not a long list of faults that basically the examiner goes through and thinks, you haven't done that, so that's a fail. You haven't done that, it's a fail, for example. That's not how it works. It's assessed on the individual situation of the fault, basically. So, if let's say you got a fault for maybe not checking your middle mirror before braking, in some situations, that might go down as no fault whatsoever. Maybe you're only doing 5 miles an hour and you come to a stop, so you're not reducing your speed much, and maybe it's on a very quiet road and there's nothing behind you. But it could then in some situations be a driver fault. Maybe you're slowing down this time from 50 miles per hour down to 0 miles per hour at a red traffic light, but again there's no one behind you, or if there was someone behind you, maybe they're very far back, so they're not really too much danger to you. But then it could in some situations be a serious fault. So maybe you're on that 50 mile an hour road again, and the traffic light is on green, and it changed to amber when you're quite close to it, and you didn't check your middle mirror, and you braked quite harshly, and there was someone very close behind you. By braking harshly, they almost hit you. So that's now changed into a serious fault. What you should have done in that situation is been checking your mirror on approach to a traffic light, and reducing your speed a bit, so you won't have to brake as harshly should that traffic light change, therefore making it safer for the vehicle behind you. With that being said, there is a flow chart that the DVSA have created when they're training their examiners to help their examiners to understand how to, what they call, weigh a fault. Weighing a fault is basically assessing a fault and deciding if a fault should be given at all, if a driver fault should be given, what you might know as a minor, if a serious fault should be given, a dangerous fault should be given, i.e. an immediate fail. And I'm going to display that flowchart just here for you. So I'm now going to go through some faults from some mock tests I've done with people recently and go through the flowchart to show you how it works. I hope this helps you. Not holding the wheel at 10 to 2. That left hand's quite low on the wheel, isn't it? So it was a deviation from the expected outcome, as basically Ryan should really be holding the wheel at 10 to 2 or 2:45, whichever feels more comfortable. So we now need to assess that. So was the deviation sufficient to warrant a fault? No, it's not worthy, no fault recorded. It's a very, very low risk thing, and it doesn't really cause any major issues. If, however, holding the wheel like this caused your positioning to have problems, so maybe you started to drift to the right as only your right hand was holding onto the wheel properly, then it would be recorded as a fault.
Turn left.
Stopping quite close to the vehicle in front in traffic. So that's certainly a deviation from the expected outcome. So basically, it's something you shouldn't really be doing. So let's now assess that. Was the deviation sufficient to warrant a fault? Yes, probably, because we're getting quite close to the vehicle in front. Is there a legal requirement? No, it's not illegal to be close to the vehicle in front. Is safety and control compromised? Yeah, safety's compromised a bit. As if we're too close to the vehicle in front and they roll back, they could easily hit us. Also, if they moved off and then stopped suddenly, perhaps they stalled or a pedestrian walked out in front of them, there is quite a high risk of us hitting them from behind, i.e. rear-ending them. So there is a risk there. But overall, it's quite a low risk of that situation happening on this road. So, a driver fault is given.
What's the speed limit on this road? Yeah. So can we please keep to 30? Is there any reason they say no swing? Just focus on maybe what the road signs say. We'll think about it later, but it's a 30-mile-an-hour road, please keep to 30.
Doing 35 miles an hour and a bit more in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Let's look at that. So, certain a deviation from the expected outcome. A speed limit is just that. It's a limit, the maximum you're allowed to do, and we're exceeding that. So was the deviation sufficient to warrant a fault? Yes, definitely. Is there a legal requirement? Yes, definitely. Has the legal requirement been breached? Yes, definitely. Serious fault? Immediate fail.
So whenever you're ready, you could start the manoeuvre, please, whenever you're ready. Okay, that's fine there, thank you. And then please drive on when you're ready.
So reversing on the right, only using middle and right mirror, and observing nowhere else. So, certain a deviation from the expected outcome, we should be doing all-round observations before and during any reversing exercise to maintain safety. Was the deviation sufficient to warrant a fault? Yes. Is there a legal requirement? No. It's not illegal to not look round while reversing. Is safety and control compromised? Not so much control, but certainly safety. So now we weigh the fault. Was it low risk, high risk, or actual danger? And I would say it's quite high risk. Reversing back on an active road without being aware of our full surroundings. So this is given as a serious fault.
I give Nix a serious fault for her emergency stop for the following reasons. The first one being, she only has one hand on the wheel. When doing an emergency stop, you should have two hands on the wheel just in case the car skids. Secondly, she goes clutch down a bit too early. This can affect her overall stopping distance. By leaving the clutch later, the car will stop a lot quicker. Also, when the car has stopped, she should secure the car, so handbrake neutral. The final thing, and possibly the most important thing, she doesn't check round fully before moving off. She only checks her mirrors, and no blind spot checks. She should check her left blind spot, left mirror, road ahead, middle mirror, right blind spot. So a full 360-degree look round before moving off after an emergency stop. Stop. Okay, thank you. And drive on when you're ready. And be pleased here, I won't ask you to do that again.
There are several faults with that emergency stop. Let's just have a look at the observations before pulling away. So, again, certain a deviation from the expected outcome. We should do an all-round check before we pull away after we've done an emergency stop. So, was the deviation sufficient to warrant a fault? Yes. Is there a legal requirement? No, it's not a law to check round before you pull away after an emergency stop. It's just kind of common sense, really, and just to make sure it's safe. Is safety and control compromised? Not so much control, but again more safety, so yes. And now we have to weigh the fault. Now we have to consider it's an emergency stop. So we have to pretend in a real life situation, if Nick stopped like that, and then did those observations before pulling away, how risky is it? Now, in a real life situation, it's quite high risk. We've just stopped for maybe a child running across the road, and then we pulled away without checking around thoroughly, checking for any other children and any other pedestrians that might be rushing out to see if that child's okay. So despite in this simulated emergency stop, it was fairly low risk as they're on a very quiet road. For the driving test, this is classed as a high risk thing and a serious fault. The emergency stop is one of the only times in a driving test where you need to pretend. Pretend you're on a really busy road and you just stopped for a child that's running in front of you, and there's children everywhere around you and parents everywhere around you getting a bit of a panic because you've almost hit a child. And if you were in that situation, you might imagine excellent observations before you pull away is crucial to avoid causing another accident and another potential emergency stop. So now, having seen those video clips, I hope it makes a bit more sense of how the examiners mark a fault. And just to clarify again, it's not black and white. It all depends on the situation. If you want to try and simplify that flow chart, you could just ask yourself, was a law broken? Yes, it's probably going to be a serious fault. If the answer is no, the next question is what you did quite high risk or quite low risk? If it's quite high risk, it's probably going to be a serious fault. So high risk is when you've caused another driver to slow, stop, swerve or swear, one of the 4 S's. And quite a low risk is where maybe you've not affected anyone because maybe there's no one around you and it's not really caused any great deal of problem, but you should really be doing it differently. Because in another situation, it could be a problem. But the other thing, hopefully, I hope you've taken from this video is you really don't want to be thinking about how to assess these faults. It's not your job. By trying to think how to assess these faults, all you're going to do is get yourself stressed out, a bit confused probably, and just more nervous. Because it is quite a complex process. It's not black and white. It's down to the examiner's training and their experience to assess that fault. You haven't got that training or that experience to be able to do that effectively. So what I would say to you is focus on your driving. Let the examiner examine you. Your task, focus on your driving. Drive to your best ability and do what you've been taught by your instructor. Listen to the advice your instructor gave you. Try not to be influenced by friends and family, as sometimes they will give you advice, but it might not be quite correct. They might say to you on your driving test, make sure you drive very slowly, so the examiner is so cautious. We don't want that. We want you driving like a driver, not like a nervous learner going very slowly. Your friends might say to you, make sure you check your mirrors every 2 seconds and make sure you move your head. So mirror, mirror, mirror. And that's dangerous potentially because you could be taking your eyes off the road in an important situation. So follow the advice from your instructor and drive to your best ability. And if you do that, you should stand the best chance of passing your driving test. That's all for now. Thank you and bye for now.